EET 118, this is lab experiment AC9 series sinusoidal circuits. So the objectives here are measure the voltage of a series AC circuit, verify Kirchhoff's voltage law, determine input impedance using experimental methods, and apply the dual trace method of the oscilloscope to determine the phase angle associated with each voltage of the circuit. Verify the voltage divider rule through actual measurements. Analyze a network with all three elements R, L, and C. So we have these resistors, these inductor, capacitor, and then since we can't do the lab in person, we're going to do everything on every circuit. So here's the theory. Um, Basically, this is a Pythagorean theory here, that you have a series RLC circuit. So this is the hypotenuse, and then this is going to be the horizontal axis, and this will be the vertical axis. So if you could imagine a triangle, and it would be a right angle triangle. The horizontal part, the base, would be VR, and then VL minus C would be on the vertical, and then the hypotenuse is going to be E. So if you square all these terms, this is what you get. This is just confirming Pythagorean theorem, and this is just solving for E. Same thing with the impedance, okay? This is the total reactive, uh, the total reactance, I'm sorry, which would be this, and then this is R squared and Z squared. So for an inductor, the current's going to lag the voltage across it by 90, and for a capacitor, the current leads the voltage across by 90 degrees. So inductive or lagging power factor, and capacitive or leading power factor. Purely resistance, a power factor is unity. So that's enough of the theory. Let's get down to the circuit here. Here's the circuit. We have 8 volts peak to peak with an inductance of 10 millihenries and a resistance of 1 kiloohm. And we're looking initially for the voltage across R. So what I did was build this circuit in every circuit, and here it is. And this is what it looks like. Now, I have the green voltage is across the inductor, the orange is across the capacitor, and the blue is the source. So as you can see, when I pause this, you have a phase shift. And you measure that phase shift. Here's your scale right here, okay? Every circuit kind of doesn't make this real easy, because on a real oscilloscope, you would have vertical lines going through here, and you would be able to see what the difference in the phase shift is. So the phase shift here is between where this blue line, which is the source, crosses the horizontal axis, and then um, this is the green is where the inductor is, and the orange is where the resistor is. So I'm going to show you in a second how I figured this out, like how to compare it to this scale. What you have to do is, I took a screenshot, and this is in Excel now. I took a screenshot of that screen that we just did, and I took this section right here, which is just the resistive voltage and the source voltage. Okay, I turned the inductor off. And then I took this part of the screenshot. So I used Snip and Sketch for the original screenshot, and then I edit in Paint or Paint 3D to draw the vertical line. So I have a blow up of this section. What I did was I took this section of and cropped it, and then I blew it up like 400%. And then what I did was I put a grid on it in Paint, and I measured the pixels. So if you, I could show you how I did it real quick. So I went here and I used Snip and Sketch. Got to bring this over here. And then I made a new. So I took this section, and then what I did was I saved it and I brought it into Paint. This is actually Paint 3D. So I took this thing, blew it up, and then I saved it, and then I brought it into if you just hit the edit here, let me show you over here because I have two screens going over here. If you go here and just hit the edit, it automatically, for me, it brings it into regular Paint. So in regular Paint, I took my view and I zoomed in a bunch of times, and then I turned grid lines on. You could turn them on, and I drew these two lines. Now you can see at the bottom of the screen right here, it goes away when I point to it, but in the bottom left, it shows you the pixels. So here it was, this is like 134 pixels, and then here is 187. And then this bar here, which is your scale, your 20 microsecond scale, it was 187, and over here it's like 70. So going back over to the Excel sheet, I did a little bit of math with those numbers. So the two vertical lines I picked for my right pixel, the distance between the two red lines is where the zero crossings are. And the difference between them is 52 pixels. It was 186 over here, 134 over here. And then the main scale, it was 186 over here and 69 over here. So you get a difference of 117. When you do the math, you take 52 divided by 117 multiplied by 20, then you get 8.89, which is roughly 9 pixels. So it's going to be 20 or 9 microseconds, because this is 20 microseconds. The unit is microseconds. It's going to be 9 microseconds of a difference. So then you divide that shift amount by the period, which I calculated here, which is 1 over the frequency. And then you multiply that number by 360 to get the amount of degrees. So it was 32.4 degrees. So going back to the lab, you have to do this calculation here, which I left in here for you how to do it. And then you could figure out the theta between them. And then I left the formulas in here. Basically, you go through all these formulas and then you fill out those two tables. I did the first part for you guys. I even left the graph here and everything. And then this is table 9.2, and there's table 9.1, and there's a couple other things that you have to do to fill those out. But I did part 1 for you. Okay, this is 9.1. And this is part 4F, and I show, I give you everything in here, the formula, everything that was in the table, the percent difference, which was not in the table, and then I have a result rating. With if it's exactly 0, there's 0 difference. It's exact. If it's in 1%, it's very close. If it's in with 3%, it's close. If it's in with 5%, it's acceptable, and anything more than that is unacceptable. So I did that, and I went through each part and made a little table for it to do the calculations. And as you can see, you have results for every part. So this is how I did it. And then in part 1, it goes through parts 1A through E, and then H and I to fill this table out. Then part 1F, 1G, 1J, 1K, and then that I'll use all that data to fill out this table in part 1M. And then in part 1L, it asks you to draw a phasor diagram of the two. So what I did was made a graph here, and I have the origin at 0, 0, and then E is 8 and 0, which goes out this way. This is E. And then V sub L is the voltage across the inductor, and it goes this way. It has this is the rectangular coordinate system r plus jx. This is the polar, okay? But I think pretty much that what I'm using for this is I'm using the rectangular system to graph everything, as you can see. And I on here is super small, so you can't even see it, but it's green. And if you blew it up, it would be in this area right here. As you can see, there's a 90-degree angle between VL and VR as expected. And as a little bonus, I also did an impedance diagram, and I entered the values in from, our numbers that we calculated in the lab. And you have a resistive component here of the total impedance, and then you have the inductive component here of the total impedance. There is no XC in this part, but there will be in the successive parts 2 and 3. So that's about it. I'm gonna post this on Canvas so you guys can see how I did it, and you can expand. I expect you to continue on with this and do parts 2 and 3, and then go on Canvas and fill out your answers like you did for the last lab.